All right, cross your fingers. Let's see how this is going. Man, it seems very, very loud right there. What is that? Re-excomp, recomp. Yeah. Okay. So let me just check this is streaming right. Sorry. Supposedly this is going on Twitch too. Let's see. Video download was canceled. I don't know what that means. It says video download was canceled. Please try again. Error 1000. Guess my Twitch ain't working. Error 1000. What does that mean? I'm looking at Restream right now, and I'm not seeing anything. This is a new setup, so maybe. Oh no, there it is. Let me check the Facebook one, see if I can hear it. That seems to be working too. What's the problem? Yeah, Twitch. I don't know. I think I got Twitch working a couple times, and then yeah, you know what? I don't know. It's I have to fix that later. Okay, but it seems like everything's running, so let me take these headphones off. Sorry. Okay. So welcome to Dropping in at Pipeline Audio number 77. This is Nyquists' Corollary to Murphy's Law. So the first thing tonight is, I'm always taking pot shots at all the YouTube hype channels and gurus and things. One thing that always trips me out is that you'll see these guys tell you that you absolutely have to buy all these really, every channel that you're recording at once better have a really special mic preamp and maybe some outboard hardware compressor and all this stuff. And there was a time where there were a lot of studios, radio stations, TV stations that had, giant consoles, really expensive stuff, and I'm talking piles of gear. Piles and piles and piles. The stuff we all lust after, the old vintage stuff that everybody constantly talks about nowadays. Used to be there was just tons of that stuff in really big commercial studios, and it's true that it wasn't usually. A lot of time it wasn't actually like music stuff. It wasn't like, oh, this is where the bands are going or whatever. There's a lot of video and TV, radio, that kind of thing, or just corporate production. But they didn't necessarily worship it the way we do today. And by we, I don't mean me. But it's weird that the guys who really tell you that you got to have all this stuff, they tend to have. Actually, shoot, my stream just died. Okay, I'm gonna start this over. All right, sorry, I'm gonna start this over. Not really sure what's going on here. Stream says it's working. See it. Let's see if I get a new one. Sorry. Okay, so this is working. So welcome to Dropping in at Pipeline Audio number 77. And this is Nyquists' Corollary to Murphy's Law. So first thing here is I want to talk about these I'm always taking these pot shots at the YouTube channels, the hype channels, all that. these recording gurus that tell you everything. They imply that, you better have a special mic preamp for every simultaneous channel that you got going, and a magical compressor, EQs. It's this giant signal chain before it gets to your allegedly tape, but more likely your audio interface. And they make a big deal about you need all this hardware and you need this kind of signal path and everything. But if you ever really watch, they'll often tell you, it's not like the old studios back in the day where, there really were, there's a reason there's SSL and Neve, because they actually sold those consoles. It wasn't that they sold one channel at a time. They sold the entire thing, these giant consoles. And there were actually, radio stations and TV production places that had these things. It wasn't always music, bands and stuff that actually had this gear. And I think most of these consoles that ever existed, the way everybody acts is that there was like one of this Neve and one of this SSL. They made several of them. I don't know how many in total. That'd be actually neat to know, but they were out there. It's not that they're impossible to get. Some of them just, at the end of corporate life, they just didn't want them anymore. And they didn't always sell them to auctions or whatever. Sometimes they just scrap these things, which is crazy to think about it. But, we can argue about that. But anyway, these gurus will often just have like one mic preamp. Even though they tell you got to have all these piles and piles and piles, they make a big deal that they can only afford, one or two of these things. They claim to be working with all these big artists and making all this money. They tell you how to be professional. One of them, I think, tells you how to, make the six figures or whatever. If you're making that kind of money, I'm sure you can afford more of the stuff that you tell everybody they need to buy. And yet somehow they don't. You'll usually see like, pretty dinky rooms, really modest stuff. It might be blingy, but they don't have what you would think they would have the way they talk to you. It's very strange. And I don't know if you knew me back in the day when me and Jimmy had our place. I mean, we had piles and piles and piles of these mic preamps and things, and I mean, just everything you could think of. From Neve to Manley to whatever. And yet I didn't go around telling people that they needed to buy all this stuff. I did early on in my career, and that's something I try and make atonement for every day. But, you'd think when these guys tell you that you have to do all this stuff, it's weird that, and especially when they tell you all this stuff about business, it's weird that they don't seem to be able to afford the stuff that they're telling you to get, as if they don't have the money that they say you should be making if you act the way they tell you to. Or do they just not follow their own advice? This one has never really made any sense to me. It trips me out. But next time you see your favorite recording guru, take a look at what they actually have versus what they say you should have. It's a strange thing. And, there's plenty of legit guys out there, but this one always just weirds me out, and I don't want to hear like, there's I'm not going to name names. There's guys who claim to be making a crazy fortune, and yet they're constantly trying to upsell you on stuff, and they're constantly telling you that they're too busy to do things, or again, they can't afford stuff. I heard of a guy allegedly making like $70,000 a month off of, his YouTube recording stuff, and then he doesn't have much, and yet he's always telling people to get stuff. It makes, be suspicious. Like I say, the marketing machine isn't just the big companies. It's about all these hype people too. There's a funny case of it. I'm sure you could search this out. Someone on GS was asking. Well, there was like the recording gods. You had Mixer Man and Slipper Man and Fletcher and other people that, really insisted you behave a certain way, buy things a certain way, that only certain gear can sound good. They did very, very opinionated on exactly what you absolutely positively had to do. And, sometimes these guys were anonymous. Some of these guys were more than legit. They really definitely could walk the walk. But I remember, Fletcher used to talk about something with SST records. And I'm not sure exactly which stuff he did, but not that that's the most high fidelity or anything, but, a lot of that music may be very important to some people. I know for me, I really loved, a lot of it was crap, but a lot of it was really good. I heard some amazing bands in some of those SST compilations that I really always wanted to be able to play. But, somebody on GS was asking, hey, where can I hear some stuff Fletcher did? And instead of somebody saying, oh, here's something that he did, here's his all music credits, or here's albums that he's done, they just like attacked the guy who asked the question. Like, either if he was playing gotcha, which he may have been, and even if he was, that's fine. If people are gonna make a lot of claims and stuff, it doesn't hurt to know, can they back up their claims, and maybe they're the greatest engineer in the world, but they never really had a credit. That's possible. Actually, I know people like that, honestly. And I know people who have credits they probably don't really deserve, like me. I'm still working on it. But it went for pages and pages and pages before, Fletcher sort of answered, but it wasn't with anything, really. Like, look, I love reading Fletcher's stuff and everything, but for how he talked, the answer he gave was very unsatisfying to me. And it turned out that a couple of the posters said, hey, he mixed this thing or recorded this thing for me. But there really wasn't anything. And it's this cult of, sometimes they say cult of personality or whatever, but there's this, we always talk about these things in religious terms. There's this just a group that he could do no wrong regardless. Not that he did wrong, but it's just like you can't even question whether or not he's what he was doing. And it turned out that the guy was right to ask, because there really wasn't much. I still don't know which SST stuff he did, if any, but I still, I really liked reading Fletcher's stuff, but this is what you got to look out for. What are your gurus doing? I'm watching all the Glenn Fricker as usual, getting into all kinds of trouble. But he's got all kinds of stuff he's done. You can hear the stuff he's done. Maybe you don't like it, but at least it's out there if you want to know what he's done. That was weird, So I'm just saying, be careful. Who you're getting your info from, and how do they actually act, and what can they show versus what do they claim and what do they tell you all the time. So enough of that rant. But I really don't like all these hype channels, and it's just a constant thing now. I guess that's just something that we're going to be living with for forever nowadays. So I guess that's just how it is. But take it all with a grain of salt. That's my 2 cents. Take mine with many grains of salt too. There were a couple videos out on speaking of hype. There were a couple videos out on the Fortin amps. There was like crazy hype videos about their plugins and stuff. This whole it's just so sick of hype. But a lot of people like that Fortin stuff. But to me, whatever, it's probably good. It's very expensive. And I guess there's a couple of videos out there where they're showing that the standby switch on the amplifier doesn't actually go into standby. And like you guys are like playing guitar, you could still very clearly hear it through the cabinet with the standby on. For those of you who don't know, if you flip the standby on a tube amp, what does it do? I don't even know. But it disconnects the input from the speakers. Like you shouldn't hear anything coming out when the standby's on. It might take a second for it to shut up. Like if you played a guitar chord and hit the standby switch, it would kind of fade out, but pretty quickly. But these guys were having it just blast right through, which is weird for the price of these things. There's a couple of videos where they show how the manufacturer responded and stuff. Looks like I think Fortin actually did the right thing, but the internet's gonna explode on them, and then we'll see. But just be aware that there's this stupid saying, you get what you pay for, and more and more, especially nowadays in the digital age, that's just not true. You might, but you also might not. These things are expensive as all hell, and they seem to have some pretty scary problems. Waves Tune is still quite broke. I know we talked about that last week, but it's a bummer because I would really love for that thing to work. I don't know what to use. I'm looking at buying Auto-Tune Pro, so I'm not out there telling you to buy $5,000 mic preamps. So when it's something that costs $400 or whatever, like Auto-Tune Pro, yeah, it's hard for me to spend that money. So, but I'm looking at it because, the other thing is, it's a bummer. Isotope, gave up on their pitch correction. They now bundle Melodyne with Nectar. Yeah, but Isotope had their own pitch correction that works like Waves Tune, Auto-Tune sorta, but it worked. Like it actually worked. It wasn't super sketchy, and you could directly draw the notes in. Unlike, I know people don't like it when I say that you can't do that in Melodyne, but you can't, as far as I can tell. I've had lots of Melodyne experts try and I show them a video what I want to do, and they can't do it. You can do it in Waves Tune just fine, but anyway. Isotope had their own pitch corrector, and now they don't, and that's a big fat bummer, man. So yeah, trying to get Waves Tune to work, hopefully passing on some stuff to the manufacturers, but they may just not ever fix it, which is weird because I don't know what they have to replace it with, but whatever. Yeah, really am looking at that Auto-Tune. Ouch. I tried the demo, it was really sketchy. So I don't know. I really don't want to pay for that crap if it's not going to work. It's weird how they kind of took a hiatus for like 10 years or something, I mean, they're still selling stuff, but they weren't really doing much for a while there. But supposedly it's working a lot better now. Somebody in the Reaper forum brought up this idea of Reaper containers, and they say they have something like that in Pro Tools, where I guess you could think of it like an existing item in Reaper, like a box, and you would put all your items into it so that when you moved your box, your container, it'd move all those things relative to each other to wherever you wanted to put it. I do something similar by putting an empty item before and after the audio. If I have like a lot of things, like if I'm moving a lot of drum parts around or something, drum samples, I mean. Oh, sorry, Glenn. But I'll put those in front and behind, then I'll group everything. And then I can just grab any of those pieces and move the whole thing as a container. And then I have it set so that if I hold shift down, it overrides grouping. And so I can move the pieces independently still. That's one way to do it. But, the containers sound awesome. I mean, there's a lot of gotchas in case you did make that container thing. What happens when you split it? It just becomes a little bit more complicated, but I think it's doable. It'd be neat if I was talking to Kenny Gioia about it earlier today, and maybe it's doable. That'd be pretty cool, I think. Lots of times people will come onto the forum and they'll say, hey, this Reaper totally sucks because it doesn't do this and it's just a piece of junk. I'm going to go back to Bitwig or whatever. But this guy came and talked about what this did and presented a good case, and it, I think it's cool. So maybe we'll get that sooner or later. Speaking of Reaper, and I don't know that this is a Reaper problem. This is one of those things where you get these intermittent clicks and pops, noises. And the next time you hit play, you may not see it there. I know I get this all the time on my interface setup. I think it's related to this X32, Behringer X32, Midas M32 thing. I'm not positive, so I can't blame it on that. But I do have a parallel system right now with a word clock and all these mic preamps, so maybe I should try that out and see if it starts clicking and popping. But, sometimes I'll hit play and I'll hear a click, like an obvious digital artifact click. And then when I go back to that same spot and hit play again, the click isn't there. Now, in a lot of the editing I was doing this week, I'm getting clicks that I can't see. They happen in the same place every time, but I can't see them. And, which is weird. So I would open them up, open an item copy up in another editor, like I think I have Wavesaur and RX7 editor, and then I'll play it, and some of them will hear the click and some of them you won't. And it's just the weirdest thing. Like I'm used to, if there's an actual click, I can see it. I'll find it on the audio item by zooming in, and I'm just not. So I don't know what these clicks and stuff are. Some of them are there. They're related to something. It could be a plugin. I mean, they happen at the same time every time, for the most part. But, it's just like Murphy's Law, right? Like, anything that can go wrong will go wrong. And in the digital world, it's just, it saps my confidence. I'm not sure that I'm actually recording what I think I'm recording. I might be getting clicks that I shouldn't be getting. It's a very confidence destroying thing. It's very frustrating. My RME card has a counter thing that'll tell you, if you had underruns or, little problems. I forget what exact term they use for it, but I don't see anything happening on there. It doesn't seem to be missing anything. So it's something happening inside Reaper for the most part, I would think. But, this is the kind of thing where you really, it scares you if you're not really super confident about your tools, man. That's it's a little terrifying, or it's a lot terrifying. So something to always be thinking about. Let's see. From us, AIX DSP, we should hopefully have a more efficient version of multiband gate next week, at least a beta. Let me know if you are willing to guinea pig this thing. It should be a lot more CPU friendly, and we'll see how that goes. We're working on a lot of new stuff. I know you guys may not have seen much, but we have a lot of eggs in the fire. What do you call them? Eggs on the frying pan, buns in the fryer. I don't know. Buns in the fire, meat on the fire, steak on the fire. I don't know. We have a lot of stuff coming out soon, or what we're working on now. Hopefully, it's coming out soon. And I'm still working on this audio book that I've been recording from an author. He's not really used to microphones, but he wanted to read his book himself, and that's I don't think I'm going to be doing that anymore. It's just so much incredible amount of work. But a lot of it's my fault. I used a condenser mic. I used the Sony C100, and it's not the most forgiving mic when you're off axis, and it's really clicky and poppy and stuff. Yeah, it's kind of never again with the condenser, that's for sure. I'm hopefully I got a RE20 or a 320 or something on the way. I do have some, I was looking at those Rode pod mics. I don't know, what do you guys think? I really like the variable D thing. That makes a lot of sense to me, but man, those things are expensive, whereas the pod mic's like $100. I don't know. Let me know what you think about it. What else do I have? There's a couple things. Okay, let me pull this up. First of all, if you guys don't know, there's a Steven Slate Drums free version. I don't know what it's really missing, but it says get the fully functioning, never expiring SSD 5.5 demo with one incredible Deluxe 2 kit, as well as classic mix ready process slate snare and 3 unique kit presets, including Deluxe 2 free, Hugo, and Dry and Tight for free. This stuff works pretty well. He's done a lot of things to fix up issues we had with earlier versions of Steven Slate drums. So this free thing, I'm thinking for tutorials from now on, I need to write myself an email of this actually. For tutorials from now on, I think I'd like to use the SSD 5 free. I guess I'll figure out what's in those free kits and put that on. I don't know if you need to use an iLock for that, but if not, definitely get this thing. Let's see. I'm gonna hit this button, try SSD 5 free, and see what happens. You get a fully functioning copy with SSD. I don't know. I still don't know if you need if anybody knows, let me know if you need an iLock for this thing, because I was looking for what to use for tutorials, especially, given everything we were saying about Catalina over the last few weeks for you Mac guys. But, this would be, I know how much everybody wants to hate on Steven Slate drums, but, I like them. Okay. Somebody was asking on the gear page, he says, I'm looking for a new audio interface and I can't seem to find one that fits my requirements without spending a lot on features I don't need. He needs 2 half-decent mic preamps and 2 line inputs, so 4 inputs, 4 outputs, SPDIF, an easy way to monitor with reverb with 0 latency, onboard DSP. Suitable for live streaming, so the ability to create a mix that is accepted by the streaming software. Now that gets into tricky parts. Nice to have 2 headphone outputs and controlled by Android. For the most part, I would say, and he said like a $200 to $400 budget, and the XR 18 fits this thing almost perfectly. It's list price is $100 past that, but it's definitely controlled by Android. I don't know if it has 2 headphone outs, but you could add more. Definitely you could monitor with the reverb on. Suitable for live streaming. That's the tricky part. But how many times on this show do we talk about how hard it is to move audio from one program to another? You could actually probably just send everything out and output and then back to another pair of inputs with this thing if you had to. I don't know if there's a way to do that digitally. I don't think there is. There might be a way to do a loop back inside it, but that's the one where it's going to get you. And people had some suggestions. It's kind of tricky to get that number of inputs and outputs. A lot of people are talking about mixers. Anyway, I would say, the XR 18 sounds right with this. None of these will give you an easy way to stream out, the way they should anyway, but we're working on that at AIX DSP actually. So maybe something will be out pretty soon for that. Okay. Another guy was talking about, it's a neat question. He says, the evolution of faking a speaker. says, okay, so far we have 1, the speaker simulation, Palmer, Redbox, etc., and 2 IRs. Will we have a profiler device that can clone your favorite speaker as close as the Kemper can clone amps? What will the next step be? Well, you know, at first the speaker simulation was no load. It was just an EQ, right? I mean, really, that's what it was. It was an EQ. And that's still, you know, red boxes and things like that. They're filtering, right? Some of them I think do have dynamic properties to them, but there's been a lot of work done on this, and I think even the Axe Effects guy said that you'd be surprised just how little non-linearity the speakers have. Like, I always assume that they're going to sound totally different when they're quiet than when they're loud, but it doesn't seem to be. It really was a trip, because I was doing impulses and trying to null it with the cabinet, and it really didn't matter if it was quiet or loud. They seem to behave the same way. So I don't even know if these are different things. I mean, they're an IR is, you could think of it as an EQ, and with that profiler device, whatever the next step is, the only thing you could really do different is to model the dynamics of the speaker if it's there. I assume speakers are multi-band compressors. You know, I really do think that they probably are, but they don't seem to act that way the way we use them for our guitar amps. So that's it's interesting. But then, you know, you could get like a load box or something. There's some news that Synchro Arts releases Vocaline ARA2 for Logic Pro. Now, I don't know why it's just for Logic. I'm assuming that either it's already out for other DAWs or it will be soon. The interesting thing to me there, though, was that it has ARA2, and that's audio random access. This is the second version of it. I think Melodyne's Celemony makes it. If you use the newer versions of Melodyne, you can you put Melodyne on the track, and ARA has already read the whole track and set things up. It's like its own. Well, it's hard to explain. It's like a. Here, let's see. I'll read this thing. What is ARA? In case you miss it, ARA, or Audio Random Access, is a revolutionary audio plugin extension that enables unprecedented instant communication between ARA-enabled plugins and DAWs. The huge time-saving benefit is that real-time audio capture is no longer necessary. So what it acts like it does is, you know, when you're using one of these tuner programs, first you track the pitches, right? You play it, and then it writes all the pitches where they are right now. And then you start messing with them. With ARA, it has its own little editor, and all the stuff is already there, laid out as if you had run through a real-time transfer. And as you move things, it moves along with you. So, like, if you move, at least as far as I could tell, if I change the rhythm of something, it'll be reflected in the ARA editor. So it's actually pretty cool. And like I said, you know, I have trouble with Melodyne, but that is some cool stuff. You know, there's been all that, I think we mentioned a couple times, a bunch of hype and teasers for new IK multimedia stuff, just like the PreSonus stuff, that they were doing the same kind of thing. And just like the PreSonus stuff, it seems like what they're talking about now is another subscription manager. It says, IK Multimedia enhances user software experience with a new free IK product manager. What does it do? It seems to do the same thing as these, you know, these like item mall kind of project download manager. I think Wave's got one, Wave Central. I think Native Instruments has one. So this is IK's version of those things. Could be good. Streamline sound installation, remove unneeded authorizations. It's all stuff you could already do, but you know, it's like having a mall inside your computer, so you can just buy stuff while you're just using the plugin. Now, This is going to be my last little thing. I'm kind of wiped out here. RME announced that they got a new card coming out, I think in September, maybe it was the plan. It's the HDSP E AIO Pro, and the tagline says 30 channel 192 kilohertz PCI Express audio interface card. Now they're claiming that you can use, I think what they're claiming is that you can use that full 192 sampling rate on all of the inputs and outputs. You don't give up any. Normally, you have, like if you have like my HDSP, another RME, HDSP 9652, if I wanted to use its ports at 44 or 48K, I've got 24 channels of ADAT, three ADAT light pipes. So that's 8 channels a piece. That's 24 channels. If I wanted to use it at 96K, you halved that. So now I had, instead of 24, I'd have 12 at 96K, and then be like down to 6 at 192. But this one, I guess it's the same no matter what you do. Same number of ins and outs, and it's not really I wouldn't call it 30 channel. RME is always kind of weird about that. What it is it looks like it's got one stereo analog input and output, one ADAT input and output, and one SPDIF input and output, and one AES CBU input and output. So that's 4 for the analog IO. They count in and out at the, in that channel count. 8 for the ADAT, so that's another 16. So now we're up to 20. 2 for the SPDIF, might be 4, so that's like 24. 2 for the AES, so that they're going to count that as 4, so that's 28. And then one-time headphone output, so that's your other 30. So the crazy thing to me is that this is a PCI card, and you're putting it inside your computer, and it's weird, but that keeps still being the safest thing to do. We keep hearing about Thunderbolt and all this other stuff, but it seems like people are putting stuff back inside their computer again when they really need it. And that is it for me tonight. I'll see you guys next week.